During your early years, of course, you read with Kenneth Asprey.
Yes.
What was he like?
He.
I gather he was ebullient.
Yes, I wrote something about him. You may have read it.
I remember an interesting comment you made. You said something like, in the end, he was as good as he said he was.
Yes, that's right. Oh, you've read the paper. Well, I sum him up in that paper. He was ebullient. He had great self-confidence. He was given to talking about his successes in vivid language. I enjoyed being his junior. He was not of a very different forensic character from Bruce McFarlane, who was rather solemn and staid, but each had good qualities.
In what ways was he a different forensic character?
Well, because he was a vivid advocate.
More of a salesman, you mean? I don't like to use that expression.
Not really a salesman, but he was a politely aggressive advocate who used vivid language. He thought he was good. He knew he was good and didn't hesitate from telling stories about himself which made it clear that he had that opinion of himself. But as I said, he was as good as he thought he was, and he became a very good judge because, having been a great actor, he was always interested in drama and acting, and he really had that thespian quality. And when he became a judge, he dropped the role of advocate very easily and acted the part of being a judge, and so became a very good one.
A bit of a chameleon.
Well, yes, I suppose so, but he was a very forceful character. I was very lucky to be his pupil because he taught me a lot.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned just now that he was a bit of a thespian, and you've been described many times as being a little bit of a thespian yourself, but did he influence you in that way?
Oh, I think he did, yes. He did. He was very influential.
Were there others that you admired during those early years that you appeared against?
Oh, yes. Quite a few, I suppose. Slattery was one. Kevin Holland, against whom I appeared when I was a junior and he was a junior in the Privy Council in a defamation case back in 1963. It was a very good, very thorough counsel. He had developed a good constitutional practice. I came against him in the barring of claims litigation. He was a good advocate, a very good junior counsel. He became a judge. Unfortunately, although he was good, he was very slow. It took ages to give judgments, but he wasn't not alone in that, in experiencing that problem.
I was reading in your papers, and I had the impression in a way you learned just as much from people who gave you a hard time, like Ray Reynolds.
Yes. Well, he was pretty brutal. Barney Collins was less brutal, but these were formidable people for a young counsel to be up against. And I think you learn by the hard knocks you have to take. And I hope I did learn. I think I did.
Your contemporaries describe appearing in the district courts in those days as a rough and tumble atmosphere.
Oh, yes, and there were some terrible judges.
In what way?
Well, there were people like Jerry O'Sullivan, long since dead, never of great competence as counsel, a decent man, but awfully slow getting judgments out. Fitzpatrick, the same. Freddie Byrne, as mad as a March hare. I remember appearing in the district court out at Penrith before him in a fraud case over the sale of a boat, very hard-fought case, which I managed to win. But before my case was called on, Byrne was giving judgment in the preceding case, an oral judgment at the end of the hearing. And he castigated the unsuccessful litigant before him as a liar and a fraud. And to everybody's amazement, even amazement at Byrne's conduct, because his conduct was not infrequently amazing, told his clerk, "Give me the Crimes Act." And Byrne then proceeded to indict verbally the unsuccessful litigant for perjury. And somehow or other he was dissuaded, but he was out of the way. And eventually his conduct became so notoriously unstable that he was persuaded to resign so as to avoid dismissal by the executive government, which in those days was able to dismiss a district court judge for incompetence or misbehaviour. I mean, he had good qualities, but his conduct operated to hide them very effectively, and he was a danger.
These days he would get all sorts of bad publicity, I would imagine.
These days he wouldn't